Alright everybody, this is Eternal Blade here and welcome back to another texturing tutorial. Today we will be covering how to make a photorealistic moss texture. So this is straight out of V-Ray what we get, and I just want to bring up a window here and let's see if I can find it. And this is sort of what I was trying to recreate, this pillow moss. So you can see we're basically spot on. I mean, this, you could not tell this is not real moss when it's in a scene and properly lit. So to begin this process, the first thing we need to do is get a moss texture. So you can just Google moss textures, and depending on the kind of moss you want to make, you just choose an appropriate texture. Try to choose one that's more easily tileable, like this one, or something like this, or even this one. The one I happen to chose, let's see if we can pull it up here, was this one over here. So it needs a little work, but I just chose one of these at random. This was kind of the style I was looking for. So let's go ahead and open this up in Photoshop, alright? So we're just going to go over to, go over to Photoshop here, File, Open, and let's just grab our moss texture here. It's going to be this Moss 3. Now, the first thing you'll notice is it's not very even. Like, we have these kind of dark spots. So the way we can get rid of that is first double-click here on Background, go to, Image, Adjustments, and then just go to Shadows and Highlights. And if you just crank the amounts up on both of those, you'll see we now have a nice flat image we can work from. Now let's go ahead and make this tileable. So go to Filter, Other, Offset, and just change this until you can see the lines right in the middle. You can see them right here, the two seams, so press OK. Now we're just going to go ahead here and use the Healing Brush tool, and if you click, you'll see it gives you an error, which is over here. So you have to actually Alt-click first. So Alt-click on kind of one of these areas here, and make your brush a little bit bigger, and just go ahead and sort of paint in the seams. All right. So nothing too difficult. All right, if you start seeing some weird things, just sort of do smaller strokes. All right, and if you see repeats, what you can do is Alt-click a new area and just layer it right on top over there. All right. So I like to click a couple different areas here just to get variation of textures, and try not to get your own seams to come back. Alright, and just try to cover up some of these ones. You can do smaller if there's little areas that specifically need some work. Alright, and then you want to get rid of these leaves too, so just go over the top of those leaves and try to get them out of there. You can Alt-click a couple different spots. Alright. Something like that should do pretty well. You can see you have a kind of a multicolored spot in here. I'm just going to go ahead and paint that. Alright, maybe right through here. Alright, so we're just trying to break up this texture as much as we can and just sort of make it as tileable as possible. Alright, so now just go ahead and go to Filter, Other, Offset, and just offset it again, and just check for any seams. So I think you can kind of see one right over here. So just sort of paste that out if you can. Alright. Maybe grab over there. Alright, not looking bad. Maybe paint out some of these areas here. Just trying to get rid of all the sort of elements that might repeat themselves on accident. And just sampling from a couple different places here. That way we can more easily texture this. Alright, so that looks pretty good to me. Maybe less a little bit right there. So now what we need to do is let's go ahead and File, Save As, and save this in a new folder. We'll call this Moss Texture, Moss Maps. Go ahead with a JPEG and call this Moss Diffuse. Okay. Now let's go ahead and make a duplicate of this layer here. Didn't mean to make that other layer there. And go to Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and desaturate this all the way. Okay, and then maybe leave it like that. and then go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and just bump the contrast up just a little bit. Okay, something right about there should be good. Okay, do File, Save As, and we can save this one as the JPEG, and save this as Moss Bump. Alright, and then we can go ahead as well, and oops, didn't mean to go over there. And I think we can probably use this as a displacement, but let's go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and let's just sort of really bump up the contrast here so we get some nice, highlights and such. File, Save As, we'll save this one as the Moss Displacement. Okay, perfect. Now let's go back into 3ds Max here. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that window there. And so I just made a simple sphere here with a little V-Ray lighting setup. So the first thing we need to do is bring up our material editor. So just press M on the keyboard. And let's go ahead and make a new V-Ray material here. Okay? And go ahead and assign it to our sphere. So you can see it's gray. So in the diffuse map, standard bitmap, go ahead and add that Moss diffuse we made. Now in the bump map, standard bitmap, you can go and add the bump map. And as well, what we can do is make that bump map the reflection map as well. Alright, so you'll see if we turn on reflections, you get some just real subtle reflections kind of around the edges, not too much. And then for your displacement map, standard bitmap, go to your displacement. Okay, now I'll see it looks kind of weird there, but that's fine. Just turn your blur all the way down to 0 and your filtering to none. And in your V-Ray material here, just go ahead and in the displacement, change it to about 10. 10 or 15 usually works, but we're going to do 10 to start off with. And the bump is good at 30, and everything else you should be able to leave it as is. And for the reflection glossiness, maybe change this to like 0.95 or something, or 0.8. 0.8 should be about good. It kind of gives us a wet moss. Maybe 0.7. 0.7 I think is even better. So now let's go ahead and apply that to this sphere here. Alright, we already did. So go in the bitmap and press Show Material in Viewport. Right here. And you'll see what I've done is on my sphere I've just tiled it 5 times just so we get a more unified look. Now on my render setup, I'm just going to go ahead here and change it to 480 by 270. I have global illumination on, and one of the key things to do is go to your settings and change this edge length in the default displacement to 0.5. If you don't do this, your displacement texture won't have enough resolution to display correctly. So now that we've got all this set up, let's go ahead and render and see what we've got. Alright, so there we go. Looks like we've got a nice little moss texture going on. I'm thinking we want to actually make the displacement map here, probably bring it up to about 15. That should help it out a little bit. And let's re-render again. Alright, and there you have it. That's how to make an extremely easy moss texture. There's basically no work to it. It can work with really any moss image, that's because they're very tileable. It's very difficult to see any seams in them, and with the displacement you get these really nice results which look good on any object. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment if there's any other textures that you want to see. Also, be sure to check out my channel every once in a while, because I'm going to be posting some additional updates on where you can use this texture. Specifically how to make one of those moss bath mats that you can find, which are actually some pretty cool things. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, I will see you guys next time, and happy modeling.